So let's get started. Um, this is something new we're trying. Open up, ask Ken anything. I do have something I want to share. Uh, Something I found yesterday, and Justin, you might like this. It's a new AI software. It's called Rival Flow AI, RIVALFLOW AI. So here's the deal. You use it, you put your URL in there. And then what it will do, it will tell you everything that you need to do on your website to make it more SEO friendly and get you up on the rankings. So I know you're thinking, Ken, well, we don't do this in house. Well, that's all right. At least you can tell your web people what they need to be doing and hold them accountable and make sure this keeps them on. And if you're doing it in house, this helps your people know what they should be doing. I think it's a great tool. It's easy. I tried it yesterday with Pilma, and then I sent work to my web people to start working on it. So this AI stuff is blowing up. I'm here at the NTL Business of Law deal, and I'm on a panel this morning. I got about an hour here, and then I got to be on a panel on AI. So, but the deal here is my mission in life is to help as many PI lawyers as I can to grow their practices and not have to make all the mistakes I made when I was trying to build mine. So at this time, we're going to open it up for questions, anything about management, marketing, just anything. If I don't know it, I'll try to get you to somebody that does know it. So just speak up.
All
Don't be
right.
shy.
I've got a question.
Okay, Greg.
Greg. Yeah, so we're having a problem right now. We've got a bunch of intake people. A whole bunch of them are VAs. We've got some Filipinos and Costa Ricans and Nicaraguans, and they sound real good on paper, and they interview real well, and they kind of start out real well, but it seems like if we don't have somebody constantly supervise them, especially the nighttime people, which are mainly the Filipinos. I mean, we had a real good one who was a supervisor, and she quit. But now it seems like if we don't have somebody just constantly supervising them, they just let a bunch of calls go, and they just take forever to call them back and text them back, the caller. And we had a pod system where we had like a pod lead and like a pod manager, and we did that for a long time because we got the recommendation from a lot of folks at Pilma, and it just seemed to, I don't know, they formed like little groups and cliques, and so they got competitive. I mean, which is good, but they also got competitive in like a bad way too, where if some other team or some other pod grabbed the lead, then this other pod over here would just say, okay, well, that's not ours anymore. We'll ignore it. And so then if the first pod group didn't sign them up, no other pod group, even though we'd tell them to, we'd say, hey, anybody can grab that lead, and we're going to give you bonuses and stuff based on how many people you sign up. They would just, somehow we couldn't get it through to them that no, that leads up for grabs. Anybody can grab it, and anybody should grab it. And if the first pod group didn't sign them, you guys need to go sign them. Somebody needs to stay on these people, and don't wait 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes, because they're going to go sign up with another law firm. And
Okay.
it just seems like I don't know if it's a cultural thing or what it is, but we're just having a hard time getting this sunk into their heads, that no, that lead, anybody can go grab that lead. And
So yeah, so my deal would be this: instead of having individual incentives, I would have the whole group as an incentive. Number one, side getting the percent. Do you go by percentage of leads that you want converted versus just percentage of leads?
Yeah, yeah, it's got to be percent of wanted leads.
Yeah. Okay. So whatever you're at, bump it up 5% or 3%, and say this month, if the team as a whole, like if you're at 80%, if you get to 85%, everybody gets a whatever it is, a bonus, $300, $100, whatever you want to make it. But make it to where they're working as a team. Because when you go pods or you go individual, then everybody's snaking everybody, and they're not working together as a team. So I want everybody to work together as a unit, and if either they all succeed or they all fail. So they're going to be helping each other. If they're not, then you need to fire them because they're not team players people. So that would be my first thing: get rid of people that are not team players. Uh, but it'll stick out pretty good when you do this system. But I'd make it more. And then, like, if they get to 85, then the next month go to 87, and then go to 88. You know what I'm saying? Then hit a point where they can't get no higher, and
Yeah.
then say you got to maintain that or you don't get a bonus.
Well,
Does that make?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. For last week, they were at 91, but they're supposed to be at 95 or better.
Okay, well, that's good. 91 is great, but you want to get 95.
Yeah, it really ought to be 95 or better.
Yeah. So just make it to where they got to say, if you don't hit 92 next month, nobody gets a bonus.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, and then if that's as good as they can do, I mean, then shoot 93 the next month, 94 the next month, then 95, and then try 96. And if you ain't get 96, drop back down to 95. Because 91's pretty damn good, Greg.
Well, I
know you want it to be 101. I know.
Yeah, yeah.
I know you.
Well, no,
you.
I'm not crazy. I don't need 101. I just need 100. But I could even live with 99 or something. But no, yeah. I think it needs to be at 95. It's doable. I mean, these are wanted leads. These are people that call us. It's not us cold calling people going, "Hey, do you need a lawyer?"
And are you training them how to handle objections and knowing the history of your law firm? Because I think those are two things that a lot of people overlook.
I thought we were, but I'll go back and check on that. Objections and history of the law firm. Okay, that's
they ought to know, what stands you out. Why they should hire your law firm over all the other guys on TV and internet.
Yeah.
What's your uniqueness? You can get that drilled into them where they're just, it's going to knock that number up. I think.
Yeah.
It should.
I really don't think it's that. It's not the closing and it's not the overcoming objections. It's just getting them to follow up on the call. To call.
Well, if they know they don't hit that deal, everybody's got to work together. Then they won't.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's the solution. Hey, Sophie. Okay, yeah, that was. I don't know if anybody else has any insight there, but
yeah.
You can come over.
All right. Anybody else?
You want to say hi? Say hi to everybody.
Hi, bye.
Sophia wants to say hi to everybody.
Hello, Sophia.
Hi, Sophia.
Hi, bye.
Say hi.
Look at there.
Hi.
That's the boss. That's the boss.
She's 5.
That's right. She's 5.
Hey, Ken. Hey, Ken. It's Ed O'Keefe. How are you?
Doing great, buddy.
Yeah. Hey, while we got Greg on there, can we ask him? Greg, can you hear me?
Yeah. Who is this?
It's Ed O'Keefe.
Ed O'Keefe, one of your biggest fans.
I didn't know I had any fans.
Yeah. Hey, since we have a packed house, do you mind sharing? What would you recommend to anyone who's considering being in Ken's mastermind if they were looking to grow, remove blockages, and grow their law firm? Do you have any one or two pieces of advice or wisdom from experience?
Yeah. I mean, we couldn't have grown when I first started. I had me and 2 other lawyers, and now, well, let's see, we just hired 5 new ones. So we're going to have by the end of this month, we're going to have, I think, well, counting me, I think we're going to have 40 lawyers. And we could not have done it without the mastermind group. There's just so many great lawyers that with great ideas that they bring them to the mastermind meetings, and we've just learned an incredible amount of stuff. I'm certainly no genius when it comes to marketing or managing or anything else for that matter. But we got a lot of really good lawyers, really smart lawyers that we've learned a lot from, and that's how we've been able to grow.
Yeah, but you're a great implementer, Greg.
Yeah, Greg's a beast. Does your team utilize all the different module trainings, like for the phone training, the management training that Pilma provides, or how do you try and get the content out to the whole team?
We use a lot of it. We use a lot of it. A lot of things we've come up with ourselves. Just through trial and error, like
Yeah.
most things in life. But yeah, no, the Pilma Vault's just loaded with good stuff that we've used for years. I mean, Ken put on a marketing course years ago on how to train your marketing manager, and I took it, and my marketing manager at the time, I made her take it, and I made the whole staff take it, and that was probably, I don't know, what was that, Ken? 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, something like that.
7 years ago.
7 years ago.
In fact, I'm getting ready to update it Sunday. I got to work on it because things have changed.
Yeah. I still got my little certificate, from on my wall, just graduating from Ken's marketing school. But yeah, no, Ken just pumps out tons of good information all the time, and especially if you're brand new, man, you need to be listening to everything Ken does, and every time Ken has one of these type meetings, you guys need to be on it, because you will learn unbelievable amounts of stuff they don't teach you in law school, stuff they don't teach you in college. Unless you're a voracious reader like Ken is, and you read tons of books on marketing and management and stuff, unless you're a voracious reader, I don't know where you're going to learn this stuff.
That's right.
So you need to be, if Ken offers you something for free, you need to be on it.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you, Greg.
Sure. Thank you.
Very kind.
I have a question, Ken. It's Michelle from the Ritchie Law Firm in Harrisonburg, Virginia. So what is the resource that you would suggest for giving the lawyers to help them overcome objections when they're meeting with potential clients and they don't want to sign up with us right away?
Yeah. Well, I've got a intake 2.0 that we sell for like $1,500, but I can tell you right now the three main ones. If you get these three, this will cover 90% of it. The number one objection is, well, I need to talk to my husband, my daughter, my grandfather, somebody else before I make a decision. And the way you overcome that is you say, okay, I understand that, but listen, they already got their people working on it. You need to get somebody working on it for you. We got to preserve evidence, and make sure that you don't need to be talking to them, because everything you say to them can be used against you. Anything we say cannot be used against you. And if they still squawk, then I used to have an alternate contract that says, go ahead and sign up with us. The first 30 days, you can come back, get your file, you don't owe us any fees. If your husband or whoever says you got to go to my lawyer or whatever, then that takes away I guess what I'm saying is there's no risk. It's a risk reversal. They're taking no risk, because that's the problem. They're afraid if they're signing on with you, they're afraid that they're taking a risk and they might get into something that they can't get out of, which we all know is not true. They can fire a lawyer. Even though you sign a contract, you can fire a lawyer anytime you want to. But they don't know that, and you ain't going to convince them of that, so you just give an alternative contract. The second one is, well, I want to wait and see what the insurance company's going to do. And then you go in there and say, about what their interest is, to the shareholders. And then I always like to have some war stories that really happened, where people waited and then everything got screwed over, and then they went to the lawyer, your law firm, and you tried to fix it, and you did the best you could, but they probably lost 50% of the value of the case because they didn't start with you. And then the other one is, well, I think I'm just going to, just checking out different law firms. And what I do is I say, well, that's great. And then I used to have a list of questions to ask these lawyers. And when they asked them of us, it would make us the obvious choice. But when it asked other ones, it might not make them the obvious choice. And I would also get their stuff and start a campaign. But if they're really searching around, you've got to figure out what makes you stand out, why they should go ahead and go with you. And you can also do the alternative contract. Say, listen, you can go out and talk to other lawyers, but let's just go ahead and get working. If you fire us, you can give this stuff to you new lawyers. You ain't lost anything. So the deal is you just want to take away all the objections. That's probably the top 2 or 3. Or the other one is I think I'm just going to try to do it myself. And then you bring in the Insurance Institute Council's research that was done by the insurance companies that said you get 2.5 to 3 times more with a lawyer even after their fees. And that's another objection as well. I got to pay these fees. I think, the insurance company says you're going to get all the money, and then you give them that report and do that. So those are like the top 4 or 5 objections. And there are other ones, but that's 90% of them. And if you can get those and handle those, I think you're going to be okay. I mean, you can't have an answer for everything, but that's not what I've found over the years. That's 90% of them.
Great. All right. Thank you.
All right.
Hey,
Anybody
Ken,
else?
Ed O'Keefe here. How much pre-education and pre-setting up do you try to put up to pre-handle objections with lead flow or even people before they opt in? Because I know you and I have talked about that a lot in the past.
Yeah. Well, it depends. I mean, if they're in the office, if they an appointment comes to the office, which doesn't happen much anymore, to be honest with you, I would send them a video laying out what the firm's history and what we do and some of our verdicts and some testimonials from our past clients. If they're on the line, I know some lawyers have started doing this. They're actually texting them clips of testimonials from some of their best clients, and that seems to close the deal really quick. So, but the more you can, of course, like you said, the more you can educate them. But what I found with PI calls, a lot of them, they're calling because they're either worried about something, pissed off about something, and they're wanting some answers. And but I think if you can do that seems to be working. Getting videos of testimonials and maybe something of your history, or if you've done a book, show them that you've done a book. Send them a copy of the book and download it. Yeah. Always, I've done loads of books in my life, and I never did one to try to make money selling it. I did it just to give me authority and credibility. And that's all they're good for. I mean, I'm not a John Grisham. I don't want to be. Don't claim to be.
I have a question, and thank you so much for the time. My name is Fernando Aleman. I'm with the David Sanchez Law Group. Can you hear me?
Speak up. Yeah, at that tone, I can't hear you.
Yeah, okay. So my name is Fernando Aleman. I'm with David Sanchez Law Group. We're a firm from Irving, Texas. My question is, what do you think that is the best strategy when it comes to marketing that we can use as a brand new firm to capture more motivated leads?
Okay. So you got to so here's the deal. You got to figure out what's going to set you out from the, differentiate you, unique selling present. You got to figure out, here's 2 questions. When somebody looks at your ads or sees you on Facebook or sees you or calls you, you got to answer 2 questions. Number 1, do they need a lawyer? Sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. Then the second question is the most important question is, if they do need a lawyer, why should they choose you, Fernando, over all these other lawyers and all over the TV, billboards, internet? And you got to come up, I call it unique selling proposition. Some people call it the value proposition. Some people call it the differentiator. But the deal is, it's what stands you out. I mean, why should they pick you? Why choose you over everybody else? And that takes some work to figure that out. And most lawyers, to be honest with you, don't do this. They just go up there and say, we care, we're tough, we're aggressive, no fee unless we win. and they all sound the same. And so people don't know how to choose. But like, I could give you an example. There's a book, I can't remember the name of it right now, but it gives you like 10 different ways you can go back and figure this out. So my question, what we came up with at my law firm was we had the 100% client service guarantee, 100% client satisfaction service. First 30 days, if they didn't like the way we're treating them in a file, they can get their file, no fee, no cost. That was a risk reversal of what I think I was talking to Michelle. And that differentiated us because everybody else in the market was scared to do it because they weren't doing a good job on the front end of the case. But if you pay for them a death, call them 2 or 3 times, and copy them on everything, they're going to stay with you. If you've ever done insurance work, you can say, write a book and say, hey, the secrets the insurance companies don't want you to know. I changed over. It could be that you give out your cell phone number. It could be that you actually get to talk with a lawyer, not another person. It could be that you're local, that you know the system in your area because you got all the big guys like Morgan coming into your market. It could be something like that, but you've got to figure out what's going to be your deal.
Do you consider that it's better to invest your project in your Facebook or Google ads instead of looking for a third-party company to speak to you? What are your thoughts about that?
About what? About Facebook ads? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Do you consider that if you have a specific project? Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Can you type it in chat because you got some garble? You got some garble going on. I can't hear you. I'm hearing about every other word.
Hey, Ken, I think he might be asking, is it better to have an agency or somebody outside you doing it versus yourself? And Ken, I could do a whole presentation on video stuff for Pilma members next week if you want, or next couple of weeks. But go ahead and answer. Fernando, is that the right question? Are you asking doing it in-house versus doing it with an agency, or am I getting that wrong too? Because we could jump to Michelle's question while we're waiting for Fernando to throw it in, unless he did it. I hate cutting him off. We'll give him like 3 more seconds, Fernando. Throw it in there, buddy. We're going to get to you. It's just a matter of. Eric Shore asked, Ken, what are your thoughts on the effectiveness of an assembly line model versus a case manager model? You're right there. Go ahead, Eric. Go ahead. Ask it yourself, buddy.
Yes. Hi, how are you? Thanks, Ken. So my question really is, we're trying to build our personal injury department. We got 2 lawyers and a couple of paralegals and then a couple virtual assistants. And we're trying to determine, as we build the department, whether the better way to build it is to have more of a case manager model, where each paralegal has like their own caseload and an attorney supervises them, and then an attorney handles all the trial work, or whether the better model is to have each paralegal, each case manager, whatever you want to call them, each virtual assistant, focus on different aspects of the practice, getting medical records, like welcoming new clients. You understand the question. I'm sure this is not the first time you've heard it.
Yeah, I don't like the assembly line because I think people get upset when they get moved around to different people all the time, and it's not as good an experience. But having said that, I think there's certain things you can break off, like right at the beginning, and write it, and like medical records. Like, if I like to have it where they all can be there to handle the questions, and then have other people in the back room making the sausage. Like, I want somebody that's going to give the experience, going to make sure they're getting the treatment, answer the questions, but also I don't want them worried about getting medical records, dealing with medical liens and all that stuff. I just want to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? And that way, because the first 2 months you won't contact about every 14 days. Because you want to guide that medical treatment, make sure they're getting to where they need, they're getting injections, getting MRIs, getting checked out for TBI. You want all that done because that's a value driver that will drive up the value of your cases, and which is good for you and good for your client, right? So I don't like, now you can break it up into pre-lit and lit. I have done that, and then I have done it the other way. I think probably it just depends on how big the firm is. The bigger you get, the more I think you need to break it up into lit and pre-lit. But I would like the same person to be handling that person all the way up at least through to litigation, and then turn them over to a litigation paralegal and a trial lawyer. And it could be the same. It could be the same lawyer. It could be, or you could have a whole separate. Depends on how big you are and what model it is, and how your pay structure is going to be. I know some firms just have pre-lit lawyers, and they pay them a lot less, and they pay their litigation lawyers more because it's harder, right? It's harder work, and they got to have better lawyers. Just be honest.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate it.
Anybody else?
Michelle had another question, Ken.
Okay.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Great, thank you. I don't want to hog all Ken's time, but so our firm, it's a typical personal injury firm where we have the ebb and flow of the case settlements, and of course that brings along cash flow problems. And so what is your best advice on how to handle cash flow problems? It seems like, we'll have 9 months of great, 3 months of bad, which is really puts us sort of behind the 8 ball because we're not expecting those bad months to come when you've got the good months in there. So what are your thoughts about how to plan, how to do strategic planning, how to prepare for those bad months that come? And then also, how does a personal injury law firm handle low cash flow months? Is it a credit line or what is the typical way to handle that?
Okay, so there's different parts of this question. The first thing I would tell you, just from a broad 360-degree deal, is you need to have 3 months of whatever your overhead is. You look at what your general overhead is and have that in somewhere in a money market. Or you need to have a line of credit set up that covers 3 months of that. But really, if what you really want to do is go in there and see why is it that and there will be, I used to have at least 1 month that was bad, sometimes 2 months. But if you got that set aside, or either a line of credit, you can do it. Then when you have a good month, you pay the line of credit off immediately because you don't want that interest. But I think the bigger deal is you got to look after what's the time on this, because that can really cause a cash. I see that's the biggest culprit when it comes to cash flow problems, is that it takes too long to do a case. I used to tell all my lawyers and staff, cases are not like fine wine. They do not get better with age. Once somebody reaches maximum medical improvement, it's the best for you. It's the best for the client. Either get the case settled, or either get it in litigation and fast track it. Because if you don't, then you're going to have more cases building up inventory, which means you got to hire more people, which is going to be a burden on your cash flow. See what I'm saying? So that's a big deal. But the simple answer is just line of credit or that. And there's some other things. Do y'all pay your own cost advance, or do you have a company that fronts it for you?
No, right now we're paying cost advance, which I think is also taking away from that cash flow.
It is. It is. I mean, there's companies out there like Advocate Capital, Esquire Bank, Council Financial. You know about those. I mean,
we do.
And it's because the clients don't mind it. It's but see, because the problem is when you're paying these cost advance, some people say, well, but you're using after tax dollars. So not only is it's taking money that you could be putting in your marketing or paying for help, but it's also you having to use money that you already paid taxes on, which is because you cannot write it off. You cannot write it off until it's uncollectible.
Right.
Because if you pay it, lawyers under the misconception that you can write this stuff off. You can't. It's like a loan, and until the loan's uncollectible, you cannot write it off. And it's an interest-free loan. So these companies, they charge, but the people don't care. People all, you know what they care about? They care about what is going to be put in my pocket.
Mhm.
You know, that's
Mhm.
what they want to know. It's like somebody going to buy a car and all they care about is what's the payment. They don't care what it costs. They don't care, you know, they just want to know what's my payment.
So
But it's the reverse.
what happens if we have a loan through Advocate Capital for some of these costs advance and there's a case or two, you know, that doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't recover, we don't have a
Yeah,
recovery on it, then we take a loss on that. We're paying the interest on the
yeah,
money.
you're paying the interest, but look at what you save.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I mean, you know, it's minuscule. It's like a raindrop in an ocean. It's nothing. You won't even feel it.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, hey Ken, real quick. James, I'm going to come to you in 1 second. Just want to finish up Fernando's question of what he was asking is the best way to invest your marketing budget, either using ads or buy them through a third party company to get the leads.
Okay, you want to market yourself. You don't want to buy leads unless you have to, because you're spending money to build their brand, and you want to spend money to build your brand, right? So, but listen, sometimes you have to do that so you can get the cash flow going. But if at all possible, always spend the money on your branding and not buying leads. Although I got a lot of lawyers that buy leads, and you know, I did it to start with. When I started out, you got to do whatever you can do to get the cases. But as soon as you can get to where you got enough money, you know, to build your own brand, build your own brand. Don't build somebody else's. You know, that's my big deal.
But Ken, let me ask another question on that, just a follow up, because I want to make sure we're clear. So, will you ever use an agency or somebody who obviously can run local ads for your own practice?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
sure. But that's building your brand.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's not buying leads from them. You're paying them money and they're creating leads for you, but they're using your name, your brand, whatever your differentiator is.
Yeah, and Ken and I talked about how it like let people spend a lot of money with buying leads and buying traffic, but if you're able to put in some pre-education and some like personal branding that answers the questions, their biggest questions, they're going to search on YouTube and Google and find you who actually answers their questions. So these other people just spending money are actually helping you. They just don't know it if it's done right. You know, if that makes sense. James, go ahead, Ken. If you want to add that.
I do want to add to that, because here's something I did a long time ago, and I would do it about once a year. I get all my lawyers and all my staff to pull out a yellow pad, and every time a client or a potential client asked a question or had a problem, I want them to write it down, and then I do a spreadsheet, and then I figured out, okay, these are the pain points. This is what keeping people up at night. This is where I need to focus my marketing, because that's what you want to do. You want to find out. You want to enter, as Dan Kennedy said, you want to enter the conversation that's on their mind and give them the answer. Right. So you got to figure it out. So what best way to do it than to take real live people and see which ones are the biggest, you know. If you got, you know, out of a month, you got 20 people asking the same question or having the same problem, then you know that's a pain point that you need to address in your marketing.
That's right. That's right. So good. Okay, hey, we got a few more just came in. So James Maddox asked, "What is the name of the litigation cost advanced companies?" And then Michelle jumped in and said, "Advocate Capital is one of them."
Yeah, Esquire Bank's another one. They're probably the two leaders.
Are there any other questions right now? I had a question for Ken if nobody jumps in there. So Ken, with you know, we're running towards the end of this year, and where are you telling your clients, your mastermind members, where should their focus be as far as to make sure that A, they're finishing the year strong, and B, ready for a really a lot of momentum early in 2024?
Yeah, I actually I just did a article for our magazine at Pillman. I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago. You're in planning. So, you know, you want to figure out, you want to look back and take what you've got from the last 9 or 10 months and look at it like, what was your cost per lead? What was your most successful marketing? What was it? What was your, but also you want to be doing tax planning too, and looking back, you want to look at, I could go. This is a big question, man. You loaded me up. I could talk like 4 hours
All
on
right,
this.
so let me give a better question. For like three areas that you like, yeah.
Yeah, so I want to figure out what 5 main things I want to work on next year. Okay, and that could be, and then I want to also really look at my return on investment with my marketing and everything, and then figure out what I'm going to budget for next year, and figure out how am I going to have a big growth year. I mean, some years I was growing so fast that I had to. I say this is not going to be. This is going to be a year of restructuring, because after you hit certain plateaus, you have to restructure things, because what will work with 30, 40 people will not work with 80 or 100 people. So you have to go back in and refix the wheels and the machinery. It's like what Greg Herman was saying, when he had 2, 3 lawyers, now he's got 40. It's a whole different operation than it was when he had 3 lawyers. I mean, it's a lot more moving parts. It's just a lot to it. But I like to figure out like what my 5 main things like. Like if I was a law firm right now, I'd be trying to figure out how can I automate with AI next year? How can I increase my average fee? How can I decrease my cost of acquisition of every case? How can I make sure I can get A players and keep them? Because that's another big deal. What I'm seeing out there, and y'all can give me a yay thumbs up, but I think the other big problem is finding good A players and keeping them. That's why a lot of people are going offshore. But you still got to have enough people in the United States. You got to have enough A players, because no great business was ever built on the back of just average players. You got to have some superstars. But yeah, I think, I like to look at that, and I like to create a budget. I like to go through every employee too and get my main inner circle, whoever my management people are, and everybody rates them A, B's, and C's. And if we agree on a C, we figure out how to coach them up or get them out within 90 days. Because I don't want any C players on my team, because they're just going to bring everybody else down. So yeah, that's the main things. I mean, figuring out your budget. What do you want to do? You want to go in a different practice area? But try not, you can't do everything. So try to figure out 5 main things, and then quarterly, then reverse engineer it. Each quarter, figure out 2 or 3 projects to get those 5 main things done. It's the way I like to do it.
Along those lines, Eric asked, what are the key metrics we should focus on? So, I mean, I know you can break that down into each category of the business. So I'll let you lead if you want to talk about marketing first, intake,
Yeah.
So that's a loaded question.
Yeah. So intake, I want, like Herman said, you want to shoot for 95% of conversion of cases you want, not just leads, because a lot of, half the leads you get, you ain't going to want. Then the next thing is, what is my return on investment on my marketing, my cost of acquisition? And I like to have a 5 to 6 return. So like if my average fee is say 18,000, then a 6 to 1, I could spend up to $3,000 to get a case. But I really don't want to spend more than that. And if I can spend 1,000, then that's just great, But the deal is, you got to figure that out. If somebody says, well, I've got a $15,000 average fee, but it cost me $10,000. I mean, $7,500 to get a case, then I've doubled my money. No, you probably lost money. To be honest with you, you probably lost money, because the cost of running a firm. And then I also like to look at the metrics of, and we do this masterminds. I make them fill out a paper, and I'm actually, believe it or not, and I was talking to somebody yesterday. I'm getting some software or whatever you call it, or calculator. I want your lawyer's compensation, not counting partner draws, but to not be over 20% of your gross. I want your staff not to be over 20% of your gross. And I want your marketing, depends on whether you're in growth mode or just styling, but most time it'll be anywhere from 12 to 25%. And then you want your net profit to try to be around 20 to 30%. I've got some Pilma members that are doing 35, 40, 50%. I got some that are doing 10, 12. Depends on what mode you're in. If you're in super growth, you're going to have a lot less margins because you're spending more money on marketing. So that, and then you go to the case management. And I think the best KPIs for that is time on desk. How long has this case been on desk? Okay, per lawyer, who's holding on to cases too long? Then the next one is the time they reach maximum medical improvement to the time you get your records in. You need to have benchmarks of 30 to 45 days, and then after they get the medical records in, 10 to 14 days to get a demand out, and then either get it settled or get a lawsuit filed within 60 to 90 days. If you use those metrics and run reports, you're going to run a tight ship. Your clients are going to be happier. You're going to be happier. Everybody's going to make more money, you and the clients. And then the last thing is once you get a case settled, how long does it take to get it deposited and get dispersed? You can measure it from the time the lawyer settles it. If that's it, I like to say 30 days. Once the check gets in, I like to have it done in 10 to 12 days. Some people say that's impossible. It's not, because I got law firms that are doing it. I got law firms that are doing it and getting the liens straightened out in 7 to 10 days. I got some that take 30, 45 days. So that's the big key metrics, I think, for marketing, management, the whole deal. And there's probably more, but that's the key ones I like to look at. Ed, you got anything to add to that?
I mean, you can go on and all day long, but I think the one question I think that's not being asked is like, how many of the people that are coming to you, do you feel like your team or yourself, you're having to pre-sell them, or you're trying to convince them? And that's usually an indicator that your marketing's not doing a lot of the groundwork for you before they ever get into on the phone or in your office. And so, like, even on the last call Ken and I did, we talked a lot more about, with all the social media nowadays, your ability to turn your YouTube channel into your own powered cable TV station infomercial that's selling for you 24/7 is way more important nowadays than ever before. And so I think Ken and I are talking about coming out with maybe for Pilm, I'll do a training for you in a week or so. But nowadays, folks, like these Ask Me Anythings, answering people's questions, and putting education out that you can leverage. So when you generate those leads, you don't want to be selling people. It's just way too hard. You're making your life way too hard. So that'll show up in the metrics down range. But that's my one thought on some of these questions. All right, we have time for a few more. Mary Ellen O'Connor asks, does anyone know a company that has a way to have coworkers rate each other A, B, C, D, F anonymously?
I don't.
Well, that'd sure be fun.
We could create it though. But I think the problem with that is getting the personal stuff involved in it, and people's jealousies and stuff like that. They've got software where you can you get, what do they call it? Can't remember the name of it, where you put points in and they can give points and they get money for every time you see somebody doing something that kind of exhibits your core values, or or what you stand for, your mission statement, things like that. It's more of a, not really rating them bad, just tell them when they do, let everybody know when they do something good. But see, my theory on this is, I think when people rate each other, I just think that's for the leaders in the management group to do. And because the leaders are supposed to be coaching people up, and you really, and you want A's and B's. You want B's to try to go be the A's, and you want A's. You don't want C's. I don't know, but I just, we used to have. I was doing a podcast with my old law firm administrator, and we were talking about. She created a H&L University, and we had trainings every Friday, and it was on different things. It was lunch. We'd bring pizza and salad in. Salads for the vegetarians, pizzas for the Kens of the world, just like the carbs. Yeah, and when we let them off early, an hour early that day, on Fridays, because nothing happened after about 3:00 anyway. So but that's my take. But I don't know anybody. But it could be created very easily. Especially, you could probably go to AI and it probably create it for you. To be honest with you.
I think what's more important there is like, where do you want people's focus to go? If it's like, maybe you build out a system where they rate the leaders, the A's and B's, and then, I mean, you probably already know the answer to the DNFs. And so if you're just looking for justification to fire people, I would just say lead from the front and then highlight and spotlight the A's and B's, create your values within your culture, and then, you know, have the hard conversations and grow from there. But there's, you know, you're causing probably more problems for yourself by going the opposite direction.
Okay.
All right, are there any more questions, guys? I think some of my A's may carry C's and make them look like B's. Okay, well. There's no question there, Mary Ellen. I mean, that's why they're the A's, you know. And so, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, we have a few more minutes. I know, Ken, what are you speaking about in your next session?
I will be talking about AI and how lawyers are using it.
And then tomorrow, I know you talk about it. Tomorrow, what's the topic you're hitting up tomorrow?
How to increase your referrals by over 100% from your past clients by doing certain things that don't cost a lot of money. And the reason I'm doing that is because this is another thing I see is lawyers spend so much time trying to get people that don't know them to know them, like them, and trust them, and hire them. And what they need to be doing is working on the back end of these people that already use them, that they've impressed. They're raving fans, but you got to stay on top of mind. You got to give them systems. You got to make it easy for them to refer.
That was quick.
Andrew.
Messenger. Perfect.
Andrew.
Tell me you can reach this person.
Can we mute him?
No, we did. I think Sherry did. Okay, no problem. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say we have a few minutes. I mean, why don't you just for what if no one has a question? Why don't you share a little bit about the differences between your Pillman mastermind groups and why you design them to be the revenue ranges specifically over over 5 million.
Yeah. So we got 3 different level of masterminds under 2 million in revenues a year, 2 to 10 and over 10. And the reason I did it is I did a lot of studying and things, and what I found was the law firms under 2 million are still trying to figure out. They just really want more cases. Okay, once they get more cases, then things get more complex. It's like you got what you wanted, right? Be careful what you ask for because you might get it. And then it gets more complex because the more employees you get, the more complex it gets. So then it's about how to get it to keep, because you would think your margins go up. I mean, you would get more profit, but actually they go down unless you stay on top of it with systems, processes. You got to have scalability. You got to be able to hire people, keep them. You got to have systems. Things get lost in the cracks a lot more. And then what we find, but you're still wanting cases, but you've got a lot more growth issues and scaling problems. And then when you get over 10 million, you've definitely figured out how to get cases. You don't really need, that might be 20% of your issues. 80% of your issues is scalability, what's next. That little 2% here, 3% there makes a big difference. I do this thing about the 7 levers of cash flow. Like if you can increase your case average fee by 10% or 20%, that can make if you're doing over 10 million, you're doing 10, 20, 30 million, that can be millions of dollars worth of money to you, right? And so then it's just what like I've heard you say it too, little hinges can swing some big ass doors. And that's what you find out when you get into over 10 million. I mean, little here, increase this, decrease your overhead by 2%, increase your revenue by 10% without spending a lot more money. That can make big deals, and that's what we talk about in those masterminds. So it's try to put people in, it's market exclusive. So, you have to sign a non-disclosure because we don't want people, we want people to be able to share. It's like Greg said, you get in there and it's almost like a little fraternity, sorority, whatever you want to call it, because we got a lot of women lawyer owners now. We didn't when we first started, but now there's a lot of them in there, and they're doing great things. So so they won't be able to share freely. It's kind of like it's a lot of trust, and of course, like anything, it takes time. But I would like to say it was all my genius, but really, I learned something every time we do one of these meetings. I mean, I'm still learning because people out there trying this stuff.
Well, I think like if you look at all your mastermind members and you ask them like name 3 to 5 people that have been most impactful in your life, they're going to choose other mastermind members because and people might say like, well, you're just trying to sell the mastermind. It's like, well, if you're not in one, then who's your third party filler of wisdom, knowledge, and education? But more importantly, how are you skipping the line and going right to the front? I mean, if you had an opportunity to sit with Greg Herman and learn from him, he went from 2 attorneys to 40 attorneys. He's going to give you a shortcut that you just can't get at the local, country club. And then the other thing that's really important is that, when people pay and invest in themselves, they immediately put themselves in a 1% group of people that are actively investing in trying to make their life better. They've shown a commitment level, and that separation immediately just that toll booth eliminates all the naysayers, the doubters, and the negative people in your life, and really props you up to being a crew when things are going good, but even more importantly, when things don't go well. So I think it's just really, I have your little mastermind effect booklet right here, man. It's so good. I mean, so many great people. So, and you offer a free call if people wanted to learn if they're a great fit for or how is the Pillman Mastermind something that would be a great fit for them? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's not. I mean, I've had some people that say no, it's not time, or no, I don't. You need to go. You need to do something else first, and then come see us. I don't want to. I told one guy, I said, go spend that money you're going to pay me on a website. He didn't have a good website. I said, then come back and see me. I said, go do the gold. I got a gold membership for $400 a month. I said, I got a load of stuff in the vault. Use that for a year or two, then come back. Because I want him to succeed, right? And and you have to do an application. It's sometimes I got to wait in this, but the deal is I try to make it where I have to do an interview too, because I want to make sure that you're in with a group that you're going to mold with. And then the other deal is just like I did with my law firm. You go to the first meeting, you don't like it, I give you 100% money back. Although in 14 years nobody's asked for the money back.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Yeah.
They said they wish they'd done it 5 years, 10 years earlier. Because it's a game changer.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, I love it. Can we have people email Sherry at pilma.org in order to get your a consult link? Is that possible?
Yeah, Sherry, SHERY. You put it in the at pilma.org and put it in the chat. Yeah.
Okay, great. Great. All right, thanks, Sharon. All right, Ken, well, we're going to let you go because you got to go razzle dazzle and get the crowd rolling, buddy. Get them going.
All right, man. All right. I enjoyed it. Thank y'all for being here. I enjoyed it. Hope we helped at least that much. If it's that much, that means we did our job. Take care.
Fantastic. All right, brother. Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.